Yeah, we talked about pitching. Joe, are there any position players in the farm system that you see cracking the roster this season?
I don't, to be honest. I think we've seen most of them. I guess you could maybe say Drew Gilbert, but he's going through a bit of a cold stretch right now at AAA, and you want him performing. And some of the underlying stuff is nice with him. He's really effective on the pull side. His launch angle has taken a step forward. He is hitting the baseball hard, but the performance isn't there. And you have Tyrone Taylor playing really well in center field right now. Jeff McNeil fills in from time to time, and Jose Siri will eventually be back, and maybe that's a spot the Mets look to upgrade at the trade deadline. So to me, I don't really see a position player getting ready to crack right now other than what we have already seen.
Okay. Tim, would this be a good opportunity to potentially trade some of their farm system, or are these guys too good to let go? And Joe, I'd love to get your opinion on this as well, but we'll start with Tim on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is probably down the line, you got to make your choices on who's going to play where and how the roster's going to fit. And you're not going to have room to carry all of these pieces moving forward. And so there's probably an opportunity somewhere for a consolidation trade. We've seen other teams do that. It's generally you're pushed on the timing of it when guys have to be on the 40-man roster. They're not at that point yet. I think when you look at the trade deadline at the end of July this year, Mets are in a better spot with a deeper farm system than they've been in recent years when they've been contending to make the kind of bigger moves if they feel them necessary that were difficult for them to do without giving up pieces they really liked in 21 or 22.
Joe, what do you think as far as the farm prospects trade value? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit before.
Eventually, something's going to have to give. You can't keep everybody. So eventually, the biggest thing is being able to self-evaluate and know which prospect to trade and which one not to. Looking at the other side of town, Brian Cashman does as good a job of that of any general manager in baseball. I mean, how many prospects have the Yankees traded away, and how many of them have actually turned into anything? And the Mets, on the other hand, they've had their hits and their misses, and we would love to have that Pete Crow Armstrong trade back, probably. But I will say the Mets will have plenty of prospect depth, as Tim mentioned, that could be used to a trade. But you will have to pry Jet Williams, Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and Carson Bench from my cold, dead hands.
I love it, Joe. Tim, with the Mets cruising, are there any pieces that they should fill before the trade deadline?
No, and there's no clear objective need at this point, which is a great position to be in as a team. I think the hardest thing to be at the trade deadline is a team with an obvious need that everyone knows you need to fill. And so the Mets have that luxury of being patient and deciding, okay, what's the part of the roster we want to fill that strengthens our team most for a postseason push. The bullpen has been really good so far. They've had some really nice performances from guys they didn't necessarily expect to be late inning relievers like Max Kranick and Huascar Brazaban. But they did lose AJ Minter and Danny Young for the season. You're not quite sure what Brooks Raley might be coming off Tommy John, and I'm not quite sure they're going to have time to evaluate him in major league games before July 31st. So if I had to pick one spot where I expect them to add, it would be a left-handed reliever. They're going to get a chance to see what Montas and Minaya can do between now and the deadline. That will give them a firmer read on their rotation and the cascading reactions in the bullpen of who moves there, who is effective in that role moving forward. So they're in a really good spot heading into the trade deadline, but it's June 9th. It's not July 30th. And a lot can change between then and now. Like Joe mentioned that 2021 trade with Pete Crow Armstrong. A lot of the reason they got Javi Baez was because Francisco Lindor hit the injured list in the middle of July. They found out the day of the trading deadline, Jacob deGrom wasn't coming back anytime soon. That was a very stressful deadline for their front office for reasons that they had no idea were coming in the middle of June. So I think a lot can change in the next 6 weeks or so. But right now, things are looking good for them.
It definitely can. Joe, how about you? Are there any players out there that the Mets should take a big swing on this season?
I am generally not pro big swing at the trade deadline. I just think the cost is just so high for the top level guys. I would trust, because I agree with Tim. I think the bullpen is sort of the obvious target. When you look at a guy like Brooks Raley, I think you would ideally have him be your second lefty, and you'd like to have somebody better. But if you look at the price of whatever the top of the market relievers that are even rentals have gone for the last couple of years. You're talking like top 100 type prospects going for 2 months of a reliever. I personally prefer the standpoint that David Stearns took last year, where it's go grab a guy like Phil Maton for literally nothing. Go get a guy like Ryan Stanek for a lower level prospect. Identify guys that have really good stuff, maybe some past success. Frankly, I don't even want relievers that are pitching all that awesome right now. I want guys that are pitching okay or maybe a little below average, but they have the stuff, and you trust Jeremy Hefner, you trust Desi Druskull, and this pitching infrastructure to make somebody better, especially in the bullpen. Over a 2-month stretch, 2.5-month stretch, any reliever could be as good as any other reliever. But if you want to do outside of the bullpen, I think the rotation right now, they're in a good spot as far as bodies, to the point that Tim made where some of them might actually end up in the bullpen. So I don't think starter should be a huge priority. Center field is the one that I think Tyrone Taylor is doing well, and they have Jose Siri. But I still look at Tyrone Taylor as like a quality fourth outfielder. So if I could get an upgrade there, I know Jeff Passan at ESPN had referenced Cedric Mullins. He must have listened to the Mets pod, because I've been talking about the Mets going for Cedric Mullins since last trade deadline. And so if that came to fruition, I think he would add some juice to the lineup, and then Tyrone Taylor could be used as that chess piece in the outfield, whether that's replacing Juan Soto or Brandon Nimmo defensively late in games. I think it would just add some flexibility for Carlos Mendoza.